Hello, I'm Eric.
I'm Shadowfox.
And I'm Will.
I'm Mike.
Thank you for watching. We are Critics Critique, which sounds...
Critical.
We are a channel dedicated to reviewing the critical reaction to movies, with controversial reactions to movies like Batman vs. Superman, Ghostbusters, and things that populate mainstream media. We are here to discuss basically the merits of... I don't know, I'm going to overtalk this.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So, is the critical viewpoint valid or accurate, or is it a good thing, or is it just, oh, we don't like this movie. Oh, this is a lovely movie, but nobody actually likes it.
Pretentious or not.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the movie that we're here to talk about today is Blade Runner. You know what? Scratch all that. Hello, welcome to our Blade Runner 2049 review. I'm actually probably going to leave most of that in and end it on... Yeah. Blade Runner 2049 is a movie that was made for a production budget of $185 million. In the U.S., the domestic box office, in its whole time in theaters, it only earned $83,221,130, which is...
Specific.
Not enough. Internationally, Blade Runner 2049 made $143 million, and while that helps beat the production budget, that doesn't make enough of a profit for them to consider it, generally a success.
Right, because you also... This is the production budget that you mentioned was... How much? 180 million?
183 million.
But you also have to take into account
$5
like
million.
advertising and merchandise and
Oh,
all
yeah.
the other things they're spending money on.
Right, that's just the production, not even the
Right.
advertisements or anything like that. So, it tanked!
So positive reviews, but
Tanked.
no customers.
Horribly.
No people seeing the movie.
Yeah, you have an 88%, this is currently standing for critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes. You have, which I should clarify, Rotten Tomatoes, for anybody who's still having difficulty perceiving that score, is a rating of, out of 100% of the people who have reviewed it, a certain number have given positive reviews. So essentially, it's not that it's 88% good, but there's an 88% chance you will like it.
The critics will like it.
Well, audience rating, 81%.
So, not as good.
That's a beat.
B minus.
Yeah, generally, there's a mid 80% chance that you will like the movie. And Metacritic, 8.4. For Metacritic, out of everybody who went to see Blade Runner, 63 people had mixed reactions, and only 79 people so far have had negative reactions. People. Out of the hundreds or whatever reviews, only... Not a percentage, just...
Right,
Anyways.
yeah.
Generally, you think if a movie underperforms, it's a reflection of whether or not it draws in an audience, whether or not it does its job as entertainment, and you can reflect on that some kind of subjective opinion of whether or not it's good or bad.
It was good.
It was good. Not my opinion, your opinion, most of the world's opinion so far.
So why didn't anybody see it?
Why didn't anybody see it? Why didn't it make money? And does that mean that people who say it is good are wrong?
I mean, it's a bad movie.
Right.
Because, fun fact, and I totally didn't read this somewhere else, and I'm not going to pawn the opinion off on as my own, but here's an opinion that's completely my own and very original. Blade Runner, the original, fantastic movie, and didn't make any money. And then so 30, 40 years later, they decide, let's make a sequel to a movie that didn't make any money. And surprisingly, well...
Yeah.
It didn't make
So
any money.
you could say it's like, oh, well, it did its job.
It did.
Yeah.
It lived up to the original. How could it have succeeded? You've got, Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, two no-names. You've got kind of a futuristic setting, and anybody who's been paying attention to movies and business knows that never works out.
Never. It's not just that. It's I think in the United States, and I think the numbers tell this story, in the United States there's a sort of remake fatigue, reboot fatigue, sequel fatigue, and soft reboot fatigue, which is what this kind of is.
And see, that's the thing, is I hear that a lot, but they consistently still are the only moneymakers.
Well, that's because, to me, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, is when a Hollywood executive says, people only want to see these movies.
And then they only put out.
And then they only put out those movies. Well, yeah, of course, because that's all I can go see unless I go to the art house theater downtown.
I agree in a different way in that the more that Hollywood puts out sequels and reboots and things like that as the cultural language for what's entertainment, the more people get used to that. You know, it's the idea that if you put a neutral stimulus in front of somebody, over time they will grow to like it.
Mm.
So I do think on the one part...
I like you guys.
Oh, thanks. I do think the problem is, I believe, is that it's a ridiculous investment. You know, the idea is like, we'll keep pumping out Blade Runner movies even though we don't make our money back, because one day people will become used to it and start liking it and start buying it. You know, you can't really do that yet unless you have the magical Marvel formula where everybody's like, no matter how they feel about the movie that comes out, it does not diminish their promise for the oncoming, train of movies.
Star Wars.
When the movies that people consistently pay for are Transformers 5.
Right.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It was
Why?
so bad.
But that's the thing that, from what I understand, and those out there in the comments, please tell me I'm wrong. It seems like in international markets, especially China, the Transformers is taking off like a rocket.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, I think that here domestically it performs pretty well too.
Shockingly.
But
it underperformed, if I remember correctly, compared to other Transformers movies.
Sure.
But still, you know, they've guaranteed a 5-year plan between G.I. Joe and Transformers with Hasbro just in the last week.
Are they going to merge?
I don't know.
They're going to transform.
I would go see that.
No, they're going to transform.
They're all going to get bought by Disney. Wow. We're guaranteed over the next 5 years to have a Bumblebee spin-off movie, Transformers 6 and 7, G.I. Joe 3 and 4, and we are not guaranteed a Blade Runner sequel.
Right.
Hey.
So is that a problem?
Well, no, just give it 30 years.
But that's the curious thing is, on the one hand, when it's disposable entertainment, that's the thing, is does that merit a nod to it's entertaining people?
Well, in order to entertain people, they have to go see it, which nobody did.
Had this movie been called K, a Blade Runner story, I don't think it would have made a difference. But calling it Blade Runner 2049, rather than calling something, and that's something else. Calling it Blade Runner Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it would have been
I would watch that.
a disaster.
I would
because
watch
I
that
think
so
that's a similar situation. Is everybody went and saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull thinking it was going to be really good because they love Indiana Jones. The
and
brand.
Steven Spielberg was making it,
Right.
everything
George
was lined
Lucas was
up.
producing, he didn't have direct control, and it was awful. I say awful. And
5 minutes of screen time of the movie was genuinely awful.
it's from where the monkeys taught Shia LaBeouf how to swing on. People hanging out in that cave, in the castle, like
I guess Will
were
just
they
doesn't like
immortal?
Indiana Jones going through booby traps, but whatever.
Will doesn't like, the things that make Indiana Jones great. The awesome warehouse scene that's just classic Indiana
That's
Jones.
before the monkeys.
I know.
Also,
Because
all the
I loved
action-
Indiana Jones.
All the action scenes looked like they were filmed in clear pudding
just-
because he's
You don't
punching
like
this
pudding?
fast.
Softly shout Jonesy.
Ugh.
Yeah. So,
But so now everybody thinks to themselves, oh man, I made a mistake going to see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
And now you have another 80s IP with Harrison Ford, where he was the main character of the other one. And he's going to not necessarily be the main character, but he's going to be in it.
yeah,
And
that's
people
still
think-
the thing that weirds me out is Harrison Ford, all of his fictional characters are getting children. All of them.
Well, I mean, have you seen Harrison Ford?
I have.
Jonesy. Hi, Mac.
So
No.
with Die Hard 5, did anybody see that movie?
No.
Did you see that movie?
I did not.
Did you see that movie?
No.
I didn't see that movie. Did you see that movie? I doubt it. But I can tell you it probably sucked. And I'm worried that somebody looks at Blade Runner 2049 and thinks to themselves, oh, here's a sequel to a movie from the 80s with a washed up actor and a younger guy, and it's going to be the same thing.
But counterpoint, Die Hard 4, Live Free or Die Hard, was actually pretty entertaining.
Entertaining, yes.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I liked it.
But see, that's the interesting thing, and that's kind of why we're here doing what we're doing, is I didn't see Die Hard 5, even though I liked Die Hard 4 and 3, and even 2, and of course 1.
I like Die Hard 2, yeah.
I didn't see Die Hard
Naked
5
Babe, sadly.
because of the critical reaction to it.
Oh, because of the critical reaction you didn't see it.
And that's the thing, is I'm not necessarily doing this to try to talk down the critical reaction so much as to process the impact that it has on not watching,
Right.
you know, a 5th sequel in a series that they're trying to cash in on from the 80s.
Mhm,
You know,
right.
Baywatch.
So what did you think of Blade Runner 2049?
I think Will went to go see Blade Runner for this review, and you want to tell us a little bit about how difficult it was, or?
Difficulty, not difficult, but if you think of the theater as being in a U shape with the box office in the middle left, and you start here, you could go left or you could go straight to the wall where the main movies are. Ours was down that hall, down another hall, out the back door, down the hill,
In a parking lot.
in
Some guy named Frank, he was wearing a trench coat.
in a trailer where there were 5 seats.
Mm-hmm.